This is Chloe Adams, and you're listening to the Badass Boss Babe podcast, a show for girl bosses, disruptors, and overall badasses looking for thoughtful discussion on topics ranging from business to wellness and sex to politics. If you like what you hear in this episode, make sure to hit subscribe. Take me very long. Hey badasses, this season on the podcast is all about becoming the best version of yourself, starting with your soul all the way to your relationships and work life. If y'all have been listening along to the podcast over the last season and this season, you know that I'm super into woo-woo stuff and 100% believe that holistic approaches can help you work through trauma and open you up to receiving your best life. So on this episode of Badass Boss Babe, I'm here with Courtney, the modern day psychic, to discuss how to heighten your intuition and get connected with your higher self. And if you have no idea what that is, we will tell you. But Courtney, thanks so much for giving me some of your time to talk to my subscribers today, all the way from Ottawa, about something that I've been studying quite a bit lately, connecting to myself on a deeper level to be able to hear and receive the messages the universe has to offer me. Are you there, Courtney?
Oh, I'm here. Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I can hear it. I can edit it out.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yes. So, Courtney, you use energy healing and spirit guides to help your clients clear trauma and blocks in their lives.
That's right. I also use crystal therapy and energy medicine as well. So, yes, I use both of those things, as well as my spirit team to help my clients work through all of their trauma and help them moving forward to clear and achieve some breakthroughs in their space. Yes.
So, first things first, what makes you a badass?
Well, I mean, I'm a little biased. I'm just kidding. But, I think I'm a badass because I know way too much for my age. A lot of people say that I'm like chatting. I'm like chatting with their best friend that knows way too much. And I thank my spirit guides for that. I thank my gifts for that. I'm really grateful that I have this amazing ability to tap into people. It's crazy the things that I know. Honestly, it's crazy the things that I can come up with. And then the messages that come through for me, I'm so grateful. So, I think that that's where I'll start off. I'm a badass because I know a lot of really cool stuff. So I am really grateful. I've also had a really, really, really amazing journey getting here, which I'm sure we'll talk about today. So, I mean, I've had quite the journey, and I definitely think in my own light that I'm a badass for sure.
Dig the confidence.
I'm definitely confident too. Yes, that's true.
Yeah. So can you tell us about your journey into spiritual work and how you became the modern day psychic?
Yeah, so it's actually really interesting I had a little giggle when you said you're into the woo-woo stuff because it ties into why I call myself the modern day psychic. It was actually a newspaper that called me the modern day psychic. That's where it came from. And I stuck with it.
It's a compliment, right?
It was a huge compliment because I was like, I love this, so I'm sticking to it. So where it came from, I definitely have
literally just the universe like handing you something like, here you go.
I love that, right? I think it's the best part of what I do. It's like, okay, spirit, hand it over. What can you give me? It fits perfect. I mean, what more validation do I need, right? So
yeah,
it just fit with me. I stuck with it. And really where it came from was I think that psychics get a lot of bad rep. And I think there's a lot of sort of skeptics and skepticism around what a psychic does and who we are. And, I mean, how many times have you gone down? Like I was just in Orlando not that long ago, and right across from my hotel there was a huge sign that said tarot card reading, psychic crystal balls. And I was just like, wow, that makes such a bad name for us who, really work hard in this industry, who are really, I hate to say this, but reputable, and
well, yeah, and it's like, how do you even find a good psychic? I guess they find you, but
well, that's it. And that's a really good question. And so thankfully it's all been about word of mouth for me. And that's how most of it is in this industry. But really I consider myself modern because I have a very modern approach to the way I work. And I break it down into four parts in my work. So I actually am a social worker. My background is social work. And so my psychic work,
So you're just like an empath,
it has I
basically.
am an empath. So I am an empath and I'm a clairaudient. So most of my messages come through my hearing. So, which is really cool. So it's actually why I like to do most of my readings over the phone, which people get really kind of blown away at too. They're always like, why don't you like to do them in person? I'm like, well, for one, I don't like to have body language in front of me. So I actually prefer to just have the voice on the phone just to read. So I like to tell people, don't take it personally if you are local. It's not that I don't want to see your pretty face. It's that I like to just focus on the energy that I have in front of me, because most of my readings or most of my messages come through my sound and through my hearing. So I definitely find it easier to read people over phone or over chat, which allows me to read people all over the world, which is really cool too. So I love that.
Yes.
Which is really awesome. But getting here has been quite the journey too. Going back to kind of how I got here, I actually used to work in the Hollywood space. I know, crazy, right? I'm a psychic now.
Yeah.
I used to be a publicist and I hated it. Everyone always asks me, they're like, you got into, you lived in LA, you were working the Hollywood scene, you worked in entertainment. How did you get here? Are you crazy for leaving the Hollywood life? I'm not crazy. I think it's
I'm actually sane, and that's how what shows it because I left.
exactly. It was so unauthentic and I'm such an I couldn't live that way. I couldn't live that way. I couldn't live a life that was not true to me. And I think that that's what brought me to where I am today and to finally dig into my gifts, which I've known I've had my whole entire life. I just never really honored them. And that's why I am where I am today.
So, what is intuition to you, and what benefits can people see in their lives by making an effort to connect more deeply to it?
Yeah, so intuition to me is the sense of knowing. And I know that all of us have this sense of knowing. All of us have it. And I think that a lot of people are drawn to me who have their own gifts. And I've been really grateful for that too. A lot of people come to me when they know, okay, I get this sense of validation, or I get numbers, or I find dimes, or I find a lot of feathers. A lot of people get these little validations and they often go, why am I often hearing the same lyrics over and over again? Or why do I feel like something's going to happen? It's that sense of knowing that we all have. We just decide if we want to tap into it and if we want to use it or not. And a lot of people don't get to the point where they want to develop their gifts. And so it's really interesting because we can absolutely make a huge difference in our lives if we decide that we're going to tap into our space and go, okay, you know what? I'm going to listen to that little voice inside of me and validate it, because it could be right. And most often it is right. It's just our fear in letting it guide us. But when we finally open up to that space, it really, really, really can make a huge, huge difference in our lives if we start trusting our intuition, which is, again, that sense of knowing that we all have.
No, and that's definitely something I've had to work on because I have freakishly strong
You do.
intuition. Yeah, like it's really, really strong. And I dream things and then they happen and stuff like that. So I've had to learn to like listen to that little voice that's telling me this isn't right, or you shouldn't be doing this, or you should be doing this. Definitely having to like really lean on my intuition more lately and just like, because I mean, it's kind of like a muscle. I almost feel like you have to use it to actually be able to get the full benefits of it.
That's a really good way to put it. I like that you put it that way. And let me ask you, how do you find that it's been how do you find that it's been helping you since you've been really opening yourself up and listening to that voice? Psychically, you're talking to a psychic here, so I have to give you my psychic opinion. I feel like you've been doing a really good job with opening that door. And I feel like it's really guiding you. And I think that if you continue to push that space and let yourself be guided by the messages, I think you're going to continue to really grow, because you have a lot coming up in front of you there, girl. You have a lot of good coming up in front of you.
No, like I mean, I started working with my life coach earlier this year, but I think when I just like sit and I'm like, okay, higher self, like, what should I be doing here? I like, I love tarot cards. So that's definitely been helpful because they just always like tell me like what I already know. And I'm like, I totally feel like I just got called out by these
Yes.
cards. But I just like sitting and like asking my higher self, like, is this right for me? And like letting something that's like bigger than me tell me, no, this isn't, or yes, this is, or like, just like redirecting me when I need it.
I love it. It's so empowering when we trust something bigger than ourselves. I love that. I love that you're diving into your intuition and using it and into all this woo-woo stuff. I love it. It's just
Yeah.
it's
Well, no,
helpful.
so I actually had I had three ancestors that died during the Salem witch trials, and my great grandmother swears that's like why all the women in our family have like deeper abilities when
Mhm.
it comes to like sixth senses and stuff like that.
I completely agree. I absolutely agree with that. I think you're more empathic than you know. And I think if you keep working with this, you're going to be a little psychic of your own there, girlfriend. I think that you are on the right track right now. You really are. You really are on the right track when it comes to working with your intuition. So you should be really proud of yourself because it's not something that's easy either. And I think that a lot of people go, oh, well, I just know, or I just have a feeling, but we really have to work with it. So I like that you're working with tarot cards because again, every person works with their intuition differently. For myself, I'm a no tools reader, so I don't use any tools, and I've always been able to. And it's funny because I just looked up and we were recording for 11 minutes and 11 seconds when I was saying that. So thank you, spirits. I just got chills there. Um, there I go with my numbers. I think that it's really important.
One person that goes back and double checks that I totally started recording before we actually started the episode, so she was accurate.
That
In case any of y'all want to go back in the time.
That's so funny. Yeah, this is just, oh my gosh, this is just, yeah, this is just crazy. I love that you're working with tarot cards. I like love, love, love that you're just doing that. And I think that, especially with tarot cards, there's so many different decks out there. There's so many different cards that we use. And I think it's really about what you're drawn to. So if that's what works for you and that's what's answering, your call, then I'm encouraging you to continue working with those for sure.
Oh, and anyone that knows me knows that I'm obsessed with astrology, so I
Oh,
definitely use
love.
that.
Well, we're going into retrograde, huh?
Yes, on Halloween.
Yes. Woohoo! Good old retrograde.
But honestly, though, like retrogrades, my life always gets better during a retrograde. I don't know what it is. Like, especially during this last one, I forgot what planet retrograde was, like what it went into for the majority of the time. But I know, especially when it was in Leo this past time, it like didn't bother me at all. And I have a Leo moon,
That
so
that
I need to dig deeper in that.
I'm a Leo and I'm like a true Leo, so that's probably why we get along because you and I are both we have that Leo fiery energy.
Yes,
I love it.
yeah,
I love it.
definitely. So, can you explain what spirit guides are and why connecting to them is so important? Because this is something that I didn't even know about until like last year.
Yeah, so spirit guides are the people that we reach out to on the other side. So these can be a combination of people that have passed. This can be a combination of people, yeah. So people who've passed, people who we may have met here in the physical world, and people we sometimes have not met in the physical world. Um, one of the interesting things that people most often don't know is that we change our guides all the time based on the energy that we need from the other side based on where we're at on our journey here. So for example, if you have an aunt that passed that was full of life, full of energy, but you're someone here that's very closed off to yourself, maybe that aunt is coming through. She's trying to pull you out of your comfort zone. So that maybe that aunt's energy is all around you right now, and that's one of your main spirit guides. But we change guides all of the time based on where we're at. So doesn't mean that person that you knew in high school that you were really close to is always going to follow you. It means that they're always going to be with you. Doesn't mean that they're always necessarily going to be one of your specific guides, though. So when I connect with you, I'm connecting with one of your guides. And so I'm also connecting with my guides. So our guides are really the people who are leading us. And they're our team. I call it our spirit team. So they're really a combination of people that are working behind the scenes for you. And I really encourage you to get to know your team too, which you absolutely can get to know them through various exercises, like reaching out to them, literally just talking out loud to them, saying, hey, you know what? I want to get to know you. I want to get to know who my spirit guides are. Give me some information. Like, it literally can just be as basic as that, and just start to build that conversation with spirit out loud and just really asking questions. It can be as simple as that. And I think people overcomplicate it. And it can be as really as simple as just saying, hey, you know what? I want to get to know my guides, and really just speaking out loud and asking the right questions.
So, besides just being like, hey, I want to get to know you, how do you connect to your spirit guides, I guess, on a deeper level and find a practice that works best for you in that way?
Yeah. So the first thing I do is, yes, like I said, I really, really, really encourage you to do some writing. I think that the first thing is, a lot of people struggle with meditation. And so I'm going to tell you, you can probably tell that I have a lot of energy. I'm like bubbly, bubbly, bubbly. And it's really hard for me to get to a place where I'm meditative and I can get really zen. And so I want to encourage people, and I want to remind everyone that meditation is something that we're doing with intent. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to be cross-legged, zen, super in the zone. I really want you to get to a place where you're in a space of creativity, and that creativity is meditation. So that could be, for me, it's going to my favorite dance class. That for me is my meditative space. Some people that's drawing, some people that's writing. And so every single person is different in terms of what their creative space looks like. But I just want you to know that our creative space is also our meditative space. And so that's really important for people to know. And so when we get into our meditative space, or we're in our creative space, we're also working on ourselves, and we're connecting with our higher self as well. And so, yes, when we talk out loud, when we're doing that, that's the first step. I want you to get into your creative space. I want you to get into your meditative space. And then I also want you to, again, be talking out loud. So when you're by yourself, and this is a tool I want you to do, when you're by yourself and you're in at home and you're blow drying your hair, you're putting your makeup on, or you're in the car, I want you to just literally have a conversation with yourself. And it might sound so silly, but I want you to just start talking. And it can be about anything. It could just be about your day. It could be about how everything's gone to crap. It could be about how everything's been so great. It could go either way, but I really just want you to start talking, and I really want you to get mindful of what's going on around you. And I think that it's really important for us to be able to connect with anything outside of ourselves. We have to be centered ourselves. And so getting you into a mindful place is the first place I want to start. And then from there, I want you to start calling on your guides. Absolutely start talking to them. That is the very first place I want you to start. Then we can move into various exercises, but that is the first place to start.
So there's a book called Why Buddhism is True, and one of the reads, so because I'm definitely like Christian Buddhist, studied abroad in India, but I've always had like an intense interest in it. I'm pretty sure in a past life I was definitely Indian, but I know one of the things I love about the book is it kind of like tears apart like everything that you thought was meditation, and it tells you like if you just sitting in your car like listening to music and not talking to anyone is you meditating, like good for you, that's still a valid practice.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. I actually haven't read that, but I love that. And I'm glad you shared that with me. Thank you. I think that's absolutely true. And people complicate what meditation is. And even, when I started really working in this space, and I mean, I don't even consider what I do work, but when I started putting all my energy into this space, it really, really, really triggered me that I wasn't able to get into this, go to yoga, and I wasn't able to go to meditation classes, and I wasn't able to do all that. And I almost felt like I was like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I do this? And this is what I do for a living. Why can't I do this? And it really, really, really triggered me. And so I really want people to know that, and like you just said, that it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be really simple. It can be as simple as just sitting in your car, going for a drive, or going, reading a book, or watching the sunset. It can be very, very, very simple. And it should be, because then we'll do it more often, right? If we make such a big deal, but maybe we're not incorporating it as much into our lives. And as we know, meditation is important. And so we want to incorporate it as much as possible. So.
Well, and I hadn't even thought about, like for you, it's like going to a dance class. And I think for me, it's going to kickboxing because I look forward to it so much at the end of the day. And I just get out like any anxiety or like energy, and I sleep so much better and I feel so much better. And like kickboxing, like you have to be very mindful of like your body and your body placements, like if you're actually trying to be good at your practice.
I have been dying to go to a kickboxing class. So you just totally, thank you, Spirit. You totally just reminded me that I want to do that. So you just pushed me into
So
place,
it's the
girl.
best. I love it. Actually, later this season, I'm having someone on who, well, she owns my kickboxing gym, but we're going to talk about like how to actually, like when you're busy, how to get exercise into your,
Oh,
routine.
I love that. 'Cause that's
'Cause it's not always super easy. And it's actually like a self care practice. And we just, you know, like exercise should be a part of like your typical daily self care.
absolutely. Just like meditation should be in some sort of way. Taking 5 minutes a day, taking a few minutes a day to yourself to just say, hey, I'm taking a breather. I got to detach for a second and recenter. And that's a reminder. That's a reminder that I think everyone needs. And I give myself too. I think we all need to give ourselves that reminder, no matter who we are.
Yes. And so I can't remember the name of the practice, but I've heard of it before and I haven't done it before because I feel like I would freak myself out if I did it. But it's like someone had suggested it to me and it's like when you sit down and like you just start writing like you're talking to like your highest self or your spirit
Automatic
guides or
writing.
like a love.
Yes.
Yes. And like you start doing that and like I feel like I'd freak myself out if I did it. But no, that sounds super cool to
Yeah,
me.
it is really cool. So it is really fun. So again, everyone, and that goes back to what I was saying earlier, how everyone really connects differently. So some people are really strong writers and can pick up a pen and a pad of paper and write. Some people can, talk better. So some people would like to podcast and talk outward, and so everyone's different in terms of how they communicate, but I think it's really important for everyone to find their way and find their system, because it's important to take that 5 minutes a day. And I feel like a broken record most of the time when I'm telling people on my calls, you have to take that 5 minutes to center yourself, or you're gonna go crazy, you're gonna lose your mind, and you have to. I mean, we do not do enough self-care. We do not.
No. And I feel like I do so much self care and it's still not
Right?
enough.
Right? Exactly. It's never enough.
Like, I take a bath multiple times a day because I'm also anal about being body clean, but, like, for most people, like, they don't take the time to take a bath, and I take one at least twice a
Oh my
day.
gosh, I love baths so much. It's so funny because I was at the dollar store yesterday and I found the
Oh, God,
Hubba Bubba, the bubble bath, and I was just like, bubblegum bubble bath, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, I am never getting out of this bathtub."
yes. So but what are some practices we can be doing every day to deepen our
Yeah, so
intuition?
one of my very favorite tools is actually sounds so simple, but saying thank you, spirit. So every time something happens, I want you to literally say out loud, thank you, spirit. So every time something literally, like, it could be that I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example now.
No, when I have really strong emotions, I've had to learn to do
Yeah,
that,
so
especially with anxiety. I'm like, "Thank you for giving me anxiety. I'm sure it's gonna be useful in some
exactly.
way. Thanks for reminding me to have
So it
feelings."
could be something negative, it could be something positive, it could be anything. I want you to try and say thank you as much as possible. I see my partner always laughs at me because I'm like, oh my God, there's 222 in front of us and there's 111. And I'm just like, thank you, spirit. And it's always people around me laugh and they're like, thank you, spirit, because they mock me because I say it so much. But it's important to show that gratitude around us all of the time. And if once we're showing that, it comes back to us full circle. It really does. One of the other, continuing with sort of the talking out loud, the other process I kind of talk about is acknowledge and release. And I think that this is really important too. I talked about this on my Instagram this week, and it was a really hot topic, is how we often try to push everything down. And this is very much connected to our intuition.
Oh, I'm so good at
Yeah, so good.
compartmentalizing.
I used to be too. Oh my gosh, I used to push everything down. And I think as a society too, we I think it's just how we are. It's just like, okay, well, how can we fix this? What tools can we give you to just fix this? Let's just fix it. And we've gotten so used to fixing everything. And I actually spend so much time sitting with what's wrong, sitting with the pain, sitting with what's going on. And so I want you to do the same. And so when things come up, I want you to say hello to it and become friends with it. So if your anxiety pops up and something bothers you, I want you to say hello to it. It's like, I want you to become best friends with the things that bother you. And I think that that is the best advice I could give to someone. So I want you to acknowledge it. So when something pops up, I want you to go, yeah, okay, you're here. That really sucks that you're here. I'm feeling anxious right now. It is what it is. And then I want you to go into what I call my screw that approach. It's my favorite. I want you to start saying screw that to everything. So when something bothers you, I want you to again acknowledge it. So it's like, okay, you know what? That person at the light really bothered me. They cut me off. I want you to acknowledge it. And then I want you to go screw that. Screw that. Because right in that moment, it cuts off the energy and it cuts that and breaks that energy cord. One of my other favorite tools that I give to people after we say that screw that comment and we break that energy cord is actually to close your eyes, to visualize whatever's bothering you or triggering you, often a person, people say, and I want you to slam a
Yeah.
door in their face. It sounds so harsh. It sounds so brutal, but it's cutting off that energy cord in that moment. And that's what I want you to do. So I want you to get quiet. I want you to visualize whatever's bothering you, and I want you to slam a door in its face. And so,
No, I've been doing NLP with my life coach for basically this whole year, and it's
life
life
changing.
changing. It is truly life
It
changing. I want to get certified now. I
Girl,
like
it
it
is
so
life
much.
changing. And it's seriously, when you start getting visual and you start changing some of the way that you perceive things in terms of, just energy is everything. People underestimate, I always say this, underestimate how powerful energy really is. And energy, I mean, we can manipulate energy. And I always say this, I move energy, I manipulate energy. We can either sit in it or we can change it. It's up to you.
And well, I think like one thing that I love that my life coach taught me is like, because I absorb people's energy and I'm super empathic and I just have to be very careful. And like, feel like it's like toxic sludge sometimes. And she was like, when you go home, just picture, or like even during the day, like just picture yourself like unzipping the bottoms of your feet and all the negativity coming out and just like washing
Mm-hmm.
away.
That visualization is really important. And another part of it too, and in terms of that negativity, I just like to go into, I'm a big crystal freak. I don't know. Have you ever used crystals?
So yes, kind of. I actually, my best friend got me, it's like literally one of my most prized possessions, but she got me a bracelet and she handpicked every crystal on it for its meaning, and I wear it
Oh my
every
God.
day.
That just melts my heart. I love that so much. Oh my gosh.
It's one of the sweetest things anyone's ever done for
That
me. So shout out
that
to
is
you.
one of the sweetest things.
My other, yeah.
I love I
Sorry.
love that. And you know what the thing with crystals too, and that's that I love that because crystals, they need to be worn, they need to be touching your skin. And most people don't know that about crystals, is that
Well, no, so actually when I met my life coach, and we were just meeting as, because we've been in the same sphere forever, and we were just meeting as like as friends for coffee because everyone was like, you need to know Desiree, you need to know Desiree. So we met up and she like just pulls like a crystal out of her bra and she was like, I feel like you need this right now.
yes, that's what I do. Oh my gosh, I love that. I literally have pulled out my crystals in front of people out of my bras before, or I've been in a change room and left them, they've fallen out, and people are like, you have something falling out of your bra. And I'm like, oops. But it's true. They need to be touching your skin. So whether it's through, jewelry, or I usually say in your bra, because then they're hiding and, not everyone's knowing that you're wearing them and you can wear them every single day.
Well, it's super hard and everything that way
Yeah. And
too.
but if you're wearing your bracelet every day or you're wearing that all the time, I mean, that is perfect. And so we can be protected.
Well, and you know what's so funny? People always buy me quartz. People always buy me rose
Oh,
quartz.
girl. Well, how's your relationship space? Do you need, are we working on your relationship space?
It's not always the best. I'll admit that.
Well, that's probably why people are giving you some quartz. We'll have to, so because quartz, obviously, as we know,
Right.
rose quartz is really good for our self love, but also, if you're in a place of working on your self care and working on your self love, and obviously, rose quartz is really good for that too. I don't know why my guides just told me for you to get a carnelian. Have you ever worked with carnelian?
No, but I actually that's like one of the ones on my short list that I need
Well,
to go
there you
buy.
go. I'm just validating that for you then. So I don't know why my guides just said, you need to get her, she needs to get a carnelian. So you need to get a carnelian. I think that'll really help you. Carnelian is really great for communication. Not that you're not already a strong communicator, but it's communication, and it helps get us from point A to point B. And I think it's going to be really great for you, especially as we get through retrograde. But this retrograde should be easy peasy. I don't think it's going to be a challenging one, but I think it's going to be a good stone for you. So I think you should go get your hands on that.
We'll see, it's in Scorpio, and I have so many placements in Scorpio that I don't think Mercury retrograde is going to be a big
Yeah,
deal for
no,
me
I don't
either.
think it's going to be. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about this retrograde. I think it's going to be easy for a lot of people. I think it's going to be easier, I should say, for a lot of people. So
Well, they can when they listen to this episode, they can reflect on that and see how great November
I
was for
agree. I
them.
agree. Hopefully, we'll have some good feedback, and hopefully, people will not be super struggling. But so far, so good. We're already in the shadow period of retrograde, and so far, it's been okay. So, fingers crossed that it stays this way.
So, was there anything else besides, visuals and crystals and things like that that daily we can be doing every
So I
day?
think that it's really important. And so one of the things actually that just popped to me, my guide said it's really important to say this is I think it's really important that we try and not take on too much. I think that we overcomplicate things. And I say this
Yeah.
a lot to people on my calls is that I think even in my personal space, I was just saying this to myself about my business last night about how I feel like I'm trying to take on too many things, and it's like I'm not able to focus on the areas I really need to focus on because I'm trying so much. And so what I would recommend to people is pick the couple of areas that you want to focus on. Oh my gosh, I can't even talk. Pick a couple of areas that you want to really um, try and focus on. Pick a couple of areas that you want to try and deconstruct. So if you want to work on your relationship space, then be doing some self-talk. Pick some crystals that are going to work for relationship space, like rose quartz, like rhodonite. So I really want you to really sit with what's going on in your space, really starting with that first part, which we're acknowledging what's really going on around us, and then working on the tools to release. But I think it needs to be a step process, and it can't be happening overnight. It can't be something that's rushed. And so I want to really remind people to not try and take on too much. So these are some tools that you can do. I think it's important to break the energy in the moment. So really going back to that slam the door, like you said, unzipping your feet at the end of the night, just really those visualization tools that we can go back to when we need to break the energy from something that we don't want to be connected to, or if we're in a moment where it doesn't feel good, or we feel like we're being taken away from something that doesn't feel authentic. I want you to just go back to that moment and say, hey, you know what? I don't want to be in this moment right now. This doesn't feel good to me. Screw that. Slam the door. It's really important about breaking the energy when you're in that moment, because again, the energy is just so powerful, and that can follow us. Energy follows us.
So, because I feel like this happens to me all the time, but what's your advice to someone trying to clear any blocks they feel like they have in accessing their intuition? Because I know mine could be so much deeper
Hmm.
than what it is. And like I used like as a kid, I constantly had the dreams where like I would dream it and I swear to God it would happen like within a week. And as an adult, I don't have that as much anymore. So I would like to clear anything that's going on so I could start
Hmm.
tapping into
You know
that.
what? And so two things. I go back to talking out loud and I start asking for the things you want. This is the thing is that oftentimes we say in our head, oh, I really wish this would happen, or I really wish that I would, get that new job. I want you to start owning it as if it's already happened. I want you to start owning it. So it's like, okay, you know what? Tonight I'm going to have a dream and I'm going to remember that dream. I'm going to wake up and I'm going to remember the dream from last night. I want you to start owning it and then talking to yourself as if things have already happened. And that's a huge part of manifestation. And for people who know what manifestation is like and owning it, it's really about believing in what you're saying. And so that's a really big part of sort of clearing blocks in our life is, and in order to access our intuition and access our guides and anything spiritual, we need to really be able to believe the things that we're telling ourselves. That's the first step. If we can't believe in what we're talking about and what we're saying, then it's a no-go. It's a no-go, girl. So that's the first thing. And then, connecting to your guides, talking to your guides, letting them support you. Again, asking straight up, not being in your head and saying, okay, I hope that this path opens for me, but saying, no, I want this to open for me. I'm done. I'm done with this job. I don't want to be here anymore. I'm on to the next. So really, really, really just, again, asking for that support is really important. And then another tool that people have used before, and I'm going to give this my version of it, and it's really, really, really helpful, is a lot of people do the gratitude exercise where we say one thing a day that we're really grateful for. What's something we're really grateful for the day? But at the end of the day, I want you to incorporate a second part to it. I want you to say, okay, well, what's something I'm really grateful for from the day? But the second part is, what is something that you would go back from the day and change if you could? What was that thing that you would change? Why would you change it? And how would you change it? And it keeps us really accountable and really mindful, but it also helps us to unblock anything that's blocking us, because we're keeping sort of a checklist of everything that we're doing, and areas that we need to adjust. So it could be something as simple as the way I looked at someone in the hallway. I gave someone a dirty look. If I would have went back, I probably wouldn't have done that. Maybe I would have actually held the door open for them. It could be something as simple as that. But it really does change the way that we connect with ourselves and the way that we're connecting outside of ourselves. And so those tools are really helpful when it comes to unblocking ourselves and kind of clearing the path for us to connect with ourselves deeper and connecting to our intuition.
Yeah, it always blows my mind how little people think that energy and energy exchanges don't
Oh, it's
affect them.
crazy.
Especially the ones that we inherit too.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, we surround ourselves around the things that we want to be around. And it's just, the energy that we're around is the energy that we're living. And so, people forget that. And really, I go back to saying that people underestimate how powerful energy is. And it's something that I feel like I'm a broken record in my work. I tell people every day, we can either sit in the same energy or we can change it. Energy is something that we can manipulate and move and play with. And it's yours to own. You can own your energy. You have to decide. You have to decide that you want to change it. You have to decide that it's yours. You have to decide that you want to move things around.
So I'm reading Super
Yes.
Attracted right now by
Yes.
Gabby Bernstein. 100% going to read Spirit Junkie after this. But that's like one of the things that that's literally the whole book, is being able to sit and take any kind of emotion and rework it and get yourself back into like a space where like you're vibrating at a higher frequency.
I love that. I'm actually listening to her Audible version of it right now. And
so good.
it's so
such a
good. I
book.
just love her. I mean, I resonate so much with her, and our work is so similar. And so, what I love so much about her message in that book is that you can choose again. She talks about so much about how you can choose again. And it's true. The situations that we put ourselves in, we can choose again. I call it spiritual intervention. In my work, I call it spiritual intervention. When spirit steps in, your spirit guides stepped in to kind of prevent you from making poor choices. So maybe it's a delay in something. So maybe you didn't get that job you applied for because you're not meant to be in that job. But people look at it as, okay, well, why aren't things happening for me? Why didn't I get that job? Why am I failing? But really, I want you to look at the bigger picture, because you do get to choose again. You get to decide what you want. You get to decide what the bigger picture looks like for you. And I think that Gabby really communicates that well in her book, is that, you get to decide what the outcome is. And, energy is so powerful. And so I love that you're reading that too. And her books are
Yes.
fantastic. So, I mean, they're all so relatable.
Well, we kind of talked about this earlier, but I feel like a lot of people don't do self work and they don't try and heal trauma, especially the ones that were inherited, because they just expect it to happen immediately or things don't go their way. And I very truly believe, and I've had to learn that everything happens for you, not
Absolutely.
against you.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more.
So, is there a lesson or truth you wish you had known when you were starting out on this journey that you'd like to share?
Oof, there's a lot of them. You know what? I think that one of my biggest lessons, and one of the lessons that come up so often, and you may even relate so much to this, probably our listeners too, is that it's lonely. Um, I've realized that the healing journey and the process to learning to, who we are and discovering more about ourselves is really lonely. I feel like there's been, I've filtered my life so much over the last several years while I've been kind of learning more about who I am and what I want and the things that are important to me. And spirit has taken so much from my life because it's not meant to be there. And I'm grateful for that. And I thank spirit every day for that. But at the same time, in the past, I may have looked at it as, why am I losing these friends? Why am I not, why, are these relationships failing? And I think so many people look at that way all of the time. And so, as we get older, I think especially I'm 29 right now, especially at this time in my life where people are changing and people are growing up, and especially walking the spiritual path, it is very lonely because we're refining our lives and deciding, okay, this energy around me is not helpful. This energy is toxic and I don't want that around me. And so it's a lonely space. And I think that sometimes people get caught up in doing the work because it is lonely, especially in the relationship space. A lot of people that I talk to say that, it's too hard. It's too hard to be alone. It's too hard to do the work. It's too hard to do the healing. And to go back and look at the trauma, it's easier just to jump into the next relationship. It's easier.
Well, and it's so funny because I just sent this to my life coach earlier this week because I have been dealing with stuff with my family, but it was harsh truth. Your healing will bring out the emotional immaturity of
Yes.
your parents.
Mm-hmm. So true.
But and that can be said for just family or like people that you've been friends with for a long time that just like don't understand what you're doing. Like when you start changing and like healing and you're not going to allow yourself to have that kind of toxicity in your life that other people might be used
No, they
to,
don't
they
like
don't
it at
like
all.
it.
And that's it, right? When you start making changes and it turns into that. You filter your life. And I say this so much, and I feel like I'm going through that right now too. The spiritual path can be a lonely one, but it's only lonely because you're healing yourself. And sometimes we need to be alone in order to heal. And so I say to people, take a break from those relationships that aren't, serving you anymore. Take a break from those, seeking a relationship that's going to maybe fulfill you for a short amount of time. Take a break from people who are just taking from you, and give to yourself. And there's a reason why you're being delayed in so many areas of your life. So if there's a relationship that's not coming in, why is there a relationship that's not coming in? Well, what work do you still need to do on yourself? So there's always questions that we need to ask ourselves. Why is something going on? Why is this happening? There's always an answer. And it goes back to, ask your guides, talk to your guides. you know you may not have a specific guide that you're reaching out to. Maybe it's someone that's passed. Maybe you're just asking generally. Maybe you're talking to yourself, but you absolutely need to create some sort of communication with yourself, because otherwise it does get lonely. The healing process can be lonely, but it's not forever. It's just an important part of the process. And I think that's a big lesson that I've learned along the way.
So with that, that's all the time we have left with Courtney today, guys. But Courtney, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
So you can actually find me on Instagram at The Modern Day Psychic, or you can find me on my website at The Modern Day Psychic.
The website is fantastic, by the way, but it's yeah, like you said, the modern day psychic. But your website is
Oh, thank
fantastic.
you
I love
so
it.
much. I love it. It worked really hard on it. So thank you. I appreciate that. TheModernDayPsychic.com, and then Instagram is at The Modern Day Psychic. And that's how you find me.
Again, Courtney, thank you so much for coming on, and stay tuned for next week's episode. And as always, stay
Thank
badass.
you so much.
So,
thanks for listening to the Badass Boss Babe podcast. We release an episode bi-weekly, so stay tuned. And in the meantime, follow us on social media at Badass Boss Babe Podcast to get a behind-the-scenes glimpse and more info about the show. As always, stay badass.